On top of all the crazy weapons, items, and skins Fortnite has, the map is no exception. There have been lots of crazy places and things to see throughout each map. So today we're gonna go over every biome in the history of Fortnite. Coming up first, we have the grasslands. It's as simple as it gets, and has a ton of grass and trees, and that's pretty much it. In fact, the earliest Fortnite maps were nearly covered completely by the grassland biome, but hats off to the one that started it all. Next, we have the Farmlands, mostly known for, of course, the different farm locations such as Fatal Fields, Anarchy Acres, and Frenzy Farm. It's pretty simple, it's just farmland. Now you could say that this technically isn't a biome, but we're putting it here anyways. My personal favorite OG location is Anarchy Acres. Next up we have the woods or forest biome, with its most famous location being Wailing Woods of course, with some other locations being Weeping Woods and Lonely Lodge. And of course they consist of trees everywhere, and that's pretty much it. But who remembers the earlier days of Battle Royale when the final circle would be in Wailing Woods and you used to crouch walk around the trees and your heart would be beating 1,000 miles per hour because you had no clue where the last person would be? Anyways, next up we have the swamp biome. It was first introduced in Moisty Mire during Chapter 1. Since then, it came back a few different times holding locations such as Slurpy Swamp, Rickety Rig, and Moisty Palms. It usually consisted of nasty water and darker looking trees and grass. Moving on, we have the desert, which is most famously known for hosting Paradise Palms, which was introduced in Season 5. And it looks just as you would expect it to. Just dry dirt or sand everywhere along with some mountains as well. However, a lot of people still loved it due to Paradise Palms being such a loved location. On top of that, the desert biome also covered the racetrack as well, which is a much loved location also by many older players. Next up we have the snow/ice biome, which was introduced in Season 7. This happened when a piece of the ice moon crashed into the island, leaving a lot of it covered in snow and ice. The most significant location of this biome was Polar Peak, although it did have other good locations such as Frosty Flights and even covered up Greasy Grove in a thick sheet of ice. During Season 8, some of this biome would be hit by a volcanic eruption, causing the ice to melt over time. Next up we have the jungle biome, which is introduced in Season 8, most famously known for the Sunny Steps location. But it did have other really cool locations like Tomato Temple and Lazy Lagoon. The jungle biome was the first biome where people were like, okay, this is a little bit different. Sunny Steps has kind of an Aztec theme to it with many pyramid-like structures. With a very orange color scheme, it was definitely different from what we were used to seeing up to that point. Moving on, we have the Volcanic Wasteland biome, also introduced in Season 8, which consisted of this hot springs location. This was the only spot that had this little biome in it, and it just consisted of 4 small bodies of water surrounded by an orangey yellow color in the dirt. This biome was surrounded by the jungle, but itself was pretty dried up. Fun fact, there was actually a challenge where you had to dance in between these 4 springs. Then we have the beach biome, which of course consists of locations like Sweaty Sands and Believer Beach. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw Snobby Shores in there too, even though it's technically not a beach, because I know in a lot of players' hearts this was the first beach location. Whenever we think of Snobby Shores, we think of the beach. The beach locations have usually really good loot and honestly are really nice to look at as well. It kind of gives you a happy vibe, and it's always nice to land at places like these. Next up we have the ocean floor biome, most known for the Coral Castle location introduced in Chapter 2 Season 3. This location was added after a large whirlpool was in the area prior. I think it does a good job representing the ocean floor for what it is. Lots of water with a few dry spots and some coral and other things scattered around. All in all, it looked pretty empty up until the time it was about to be removed, and I think it does a really good job of representing that. Next up we have the corrupted areas, which were areas that were left behind as Kevin the Cube moved around the map. These corrupted areas consisted of dead grass and dead trees everywhere. But with the corruption that occurred in Chapter 2, it would usually leave a thick fog and cube particles in the air as well. Corruption would pretty much kill the nature in the areas it occupied. Moving on, we have the alien biomes. Introduced in Chapter 2 Season 7, these were purple patches of land that were transformed by the alien organisms. They consisted of these weird alien-like plants and trees, but honestly, in my opinion, I think these areas are really cool looking. Next up, we have the Primal biome, which was introduced in Chapter 2, Season 6, along with a few animals like wolves and boars. It consisted of locations such as bony burbs and colossal crops. This is honestly a beautiful biome consisting of an orange, autumn-like color scheme with orange and yellow trees and grass everywhere. It also gives you an older vibe with most of the buildings looking kind of old, also usually with a similar color scheme as the landscape itself. Moving on, we have the sand biome, or the 0 Point desert. This isn't to be confused with the normal desert biome, as this one is more sandy rather than the desert biome, which looks like mostly dirt or just orange ground. It was introduced in Chapter 2, Season 5, and it was right in the middle of the map. It consisted of pretty much sand and 0 Point crystals everywhere. This happened after Galactus attacked the 0 Point, causing all the ground around it to turn into what's called 0 Point matter sand. Next up, we have the reality biome. Introduced in Chapter 3, Season 3, it's characterized by its bluish green grass and its blue and purple trees and plants everywhere. Of course, you had the huge reality tree as well. Alongside that, there were also giant mushrooms everywhere, and there were many mushrooms you could bounce on and even gain shield from some of them. This biome also included saplings, which would drop you weapons and consumables. This is yet another beautiful biome in my opinion. That brings us to probably the weirdest biome on the list, which is the chrome biome. Introduced in Chapter 3, Season 4, the chrome biome originates from the roots of the reality tree. And as you could tell, everything in the chrome areas was of course chrome, including the weapons and chests as well. This biome even featured a huge tornado that would show up in different chrome areas as well. This one was really weird. Moving on, we have the medieval biome, which was introduced in Chapter 4, Season 1, and honestly, there's not much to this one. It was pretty much just like the Primal biome, except it just had medieval buildings to go with it. Some locations include the Citadel and Anvil Square. And next up, we have the Teal foothills biome. It was introduced in Chapter 4, Season 2, and it's characterized mainly by its pine trees and the overall teal color of the biome. However, you could also find cherry blossom trees in some locations as well, including Steamy Springs. The scenery in Chapters 3 and 4 was honestly some of the best we've ever seen in the game. Next, we have one of the brand new biomes with the Olympus biome. It's characterized by its light green grass and overall tan colorway. It's based on Greek mythology and all the buildings are based off of ancient Greece. We of course have Mount Olympus here, which is where you can fight Zeus. On top of that, you have statues and pillars everywhere. I love the bright colored, sunny locations, with the light colors everywhere, and overall, I'm loving this new biome and location. And last but not least, we have another brand new biome in Chapter 5, Season 2, which is the Underworld biome, which of course contains the Underworld and another location called Grim Gate. You can find Hades here as well. This location is very simple. It's based off the Greek mythology Underworld, and everything here is pretty much dark and dead. Most of the trees and grasses are dead, and some of the trees are purple, and all the land is just barren. It also contains this weird type of water or something that when you jump into it, it'll give you the ability to kind of dash and phase forward really quickly. And I think whenever they add elements that can give you abilities or healing or anything like that, it's always really cool. But honestly, in my opinion, I'm not really a fan of like the darker, more gloomy locations. I don't know, that's just me. New biomes we've seen in Chapter 5 are nothing new, however they simply just have slightly different versions of what we already seen. So with that being said, we just went over every biome in the history of Fortnite. It's extremely cool to see just how much Epic has done with Fortnite. There's so many different locations and biomes, and most of them look amazing honestly. Anyways, I hope y'all have a blessed day.